Yeah, so last time we talked about file IO, as you might remember. So there was a few questions that came in, which are pretty typical. If you haven't done a bunch of programming where you've messed with files and stuff before, these are normal questions to ask. How to handle opening a file, right? So the assignment that I gave you is complicated, it has lots of moving parts. It's like a jigsaw puzzle, and I'm looking for the final solution. And you're going to have to look around and find the edge pieces and then find the pieces that go with the different colors. And you're going to have to fit all those things together yourself. And that's hard. And it's meant to be challenging. But I'm trying to give you all the building blocks so you can wrestle with it in your mind and figure out how those blocks go together to make the final puzzle. So I don't want any of that to be a mystery to you. So when you have individual questions about, well, wait a minute, how does this work? What does append mode mean? You're more than welcome. I hope that you'll ask those kind of questions so that we can go through them. But like we were talking about earlier before class, one of the good approaches to a complicated problem like this is, well, I would avoid trying to tackle the whole problem from beginning to end all in one fell swoop. That's a recipe for frustration, I guess is my point. But think about how to do very simple things, a whole bunch of very simple things. Think of it as, I'm not expecting everybody in here to knock this out of the park the very first attempt at it. But I do think that it provides you a number of opportunities when the first thing in the assignment is you need to ask the person for a file name and open that file. Well, that's one small little building block. That's one edge piece in your puzzle that you can write a program completely separate of the assignment to do that one thing, right? So, we could do that here. I'm going to save this someplace where I can find it. Let's say downloads, open file.python. So what we want to do here is ask for a file name, open the file, handle any exceptions that happen. That's pretty simple, right? That's a reasonable thing to try to do. I don't even have to ask for the file name. I could just hard code it, but that's pretty easy. I can just say file name equals which file. And then I can try to open the file. Okay, so this can be a confusing command right here. We've not dealt with files before last week, most of you, I assume. So what the heck, there's a lot packed into this one statement here. Why am I taking this and assigning it to file one? What the heck is file one? Yeah.
File one will be the file that you start off with, and the access is through your user.
Conceptually, yes, but I'm talking specifically, what the heck is file one, that variable, going to contain?
Your readable text.
No, it's going to contain an object. It's going to be given a reference to an instance of an object, and that object is of type file. Okay. It's an object you'll have to start getting used to this in Python and other languages. There are simple things like integers, strings, floats, but there are also lists and dictionaries and other objects. And this is one of those objects. When we start working with objects, we don't necessarily get to know all of the internal nitty-gritty details of an object. An object exposes a contract to us. It gives us things that we can do, and then there's a mysterious other set of things that it can do internally. Yeah.
Can you show me dictionary?
A dictionary?
Yeah.
Remember we've talked about that when we were doing lists? Yeah. Difference between curly braces and square braces in Python? Yeah, just Google Python dictionary and you'll get lots of examples like on W3 Schools and places.
We don't need to use different transcribe in this context.
We will. I'll get to that. I'm working up slowly to it. I'm trying to explain things that are mysterious about this stuff as we build up to it. Okay, so file one is a file object. I need that because later I'm going to do things with that file. Like,
Open the file or on the computer?
yeah, this part of it, when you call this open function, you pass it a file name and a mode, it opens the file on your computer and gives you back a reference to a file object. And with that file object, we can perform other operations like reading from it or writing to it, things like.
Sorry, for example, if it's like a notepad thing, if you write like a sentence, and if you put like open wherever the notepad's file.
Yeah.
So we open it and then you
Yeah.
can choose to read it. And then
Yeah, exactly. And so the file name is pretty self-explanatory, right? It's just like foo.txt or researchpaper.doc or whatever the file is, that's the name of the file. And this kind of stymied some people. What the heck is this double quote R thing? Yeah.
Is that the actual file name, the R?
This is the mode that we're going to open it. R means read. W means write. And we're telling this open command what we intend to do with it. A for append. And this is where, again, we don't have the time in class to have the luxury of going through every aspect of it. And even if I did have the time, I would not want to spray a fire hose on you guys and give you every last detail about it. We want a functional knowledge of how to use these things so we can do our program, right? So if you want to know all of the different possible modes that you can use when dealing with files, Google, W3 Schools, Python, open modes, and you'll get all the different modes that are supported, or look in your textbook, right? But all I need to know for right now is that if I want to read from this file, I pass it an R. Okay, I can file that away in my toolbox, and I know if I want to read from a file, this is how I open one. And now I've got this file one thing. If this succeeded, I've got this file one object, and I can do stuff with it. One of the methods that the file object supports is readline. So I can say line equals file1.readline. And if I call that, if I call readline on a file object, I get back a line of text. Okay. But that's not my assignment here. You know, all we're trying to do is verify that we are able to open a file. So we want to handle what happens. So this file name is either going to exist and we open it, or it won't exist and something will go bad and we won't be able to open it, right? Because the contract of this open function says that's how it works. If the file exists and I'm able to open it for you to read from it, I will return you a file object. If the file doesn't exist, or somebody has it locked and I'm unable to open it, or your hard drive crashes and you can't open it, or whatever, then it will throw an exception. So we want to catch the exception from running this. So we want to wrap this in a scope of a try catch. And like we learned last time, the way we do that is we put a try in front of it. And we put an except and whatever we want to put here. You know, unable to open file, dummy. Whatever, you know, it's our message. We can put whatever we want there. And we'll typically say, yeah, something bad happened. I don't want to keep going after this. Like we learned last time, if I just do this, it's going to keep running. When you have an accept block like this, you're expected to do what's appropriate should that exception occur. And if the whole point of my program is to open a file and then do some other stuff, and I'm unable to open the file, then I probably want to exit. Okay, yeah.
So on the file one, you can open file name. We put file name on file name, right?
The comma?
Like before, like the file name is actually the file name, right?
Yeah, because I said input, so I have a string that has a file name. So we're going to run this now. Let me go to a command prompt. And let's see. Downloads. Okay, yeah, there's my file. So Python openfile.py is going to compile and run my program. Which file? So I'm going to give it a file name like foo.txt, right? I haven't created one of those, so it doesn't exist. So if I hit enter, which code path did I go down? So it tried to open the file foo.txt, but it threw an exception because it was unable to. So it went to the accept block and said unable to open file and exited. If I use our favorite text editor, and I'll save it. And like I said last time, the simplest thing for you to do right now, so you don't have to deal with a bunch of folder logic, is just put all these files that you're going to be reading and writing in the same folder with your Python script. It just makes it easier. So now I have a file called foo.txt. So if I run my program and I say foo.txt, it didn't print the error message. So it didn't throw an exception. It went down here. I guess I could put a print statement down here. Run it again, foo.txt. And so now I get my message. All right, so now this little script here, I can file that away as just part of my toolbox. Now I know how to open a file in Python and handle the exception that happens if the file doesn't exist. It's not my complete assignment, but it's one of the puzzle pieces that I need in order to do that assignment, right? Yeah.
Do you have type of import OS Or will Python automatically go to your operating system and access the text file?
Well, okay, so when you say import OS,
Yes.
it's not going to your operating system. OS is simply the name of a library.
Library. Okay.
Yes, like when we said import Turtle,
Oh, okay.
we were importing the library of Turtle graphics functions, right? But OS is imported by default, so I don't have to say import OS. If I'm being perfectly explicit, yeah, I can say import OS. But it's available by default, like input. I didn't have to import any library to get access to the input. It's a built-in keyword, right? Some stuff like that. So the open keyword was just available to me without importing. Just makes it simpler. Okay? And so a big complex program, as we've learned all semester, is simply an amalgamation of a whole bunch of small little things that we know how to do already that we're putting together in interesting ways. So are there any other?
So how would you, make the notepad, like, hit something like, you see how it's like, this is the file, no, we need it.
Yeah, I just typed that in.
Right, how can I paste that into the code? So, you know.
You don't need to. This is a file. So when I say dir or
So it just, finds the file for you and opens it?
yeah.
Okay.
So I look in my downloads folder where I put it, and I have these two files.
Right.
This one that I created with Notepad and hit file save. So it's sitting there. And this was my Python file that I'm running.
Right.
Yep.
How would I like edit it through some?
How would you edit this file in the code? Okay. So maybe a next building block would be how about we ask for a file name, open the file for writing, and write some text to it.
Right.
Okay. All right. So we'll do the same thing. We'll get a file name from the user. We'll say, which file do you want to create? Maybe I'll be explicit about that. Which file do you want me to create? Then I'm going to open this not for reading, but for writing. Same thing, I can process the exception. If I can't open it to write to it, then I will right. So all I did really, I changed the prompt and I changed this R to a W. Haven't really done anything else, but since I want to write something to it, I will say file one dot write line. Right, I'm just writing a bunch of text to it. I can say output give me some text. And then I can say file one dot write line what they gave me, right? I can write a string that they gave me. So I'll save this one as write file.py. And so, you know, there now I have my open file and my write file. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to run my program. Which file do you want me to create? How about bar.txt? Okay. Okay, let's examine this. Cool, I was able to open the file. Right? So that means I did not throw an exception. I was able to open it. And it says, oh, did I get the name of the command wrong?
Yeah, you wrote, I think that's supposed to be a line, right line. Right line.
Yeah, but it's not right lines, is it? I thought it was right line.
Yeah, we're making something.
Oh, I guess it's right lines. Okay. Let's run it again. bar.txt. Okay, so it says, cool, I was able to open the file. Right lines, right lines, right lines. And now it says, give me some text. This is my cool text. And it closes. So if I go over here and look in Explorer, there's a new file, bar.txt. And if I open it with Notepad, this is a file. No, really, trust me, this is my cool text. But it's all on the same line. So I'm guessing I have to put my own carriage returns in there. \n. Let's see what happens when we do that. bar.txt. Now this was interesting, wasn't it? I just said open a file name for writing, and I gave it the file name of a file that already existed, and it didn't throw an exception. Is that all right? Do we like that?
No. Can we reprint the file? With the encryption file?
Next. Yeah, we'll do that next.
Okay.
But
Right.
so the contract for the open command says if you give me the name of a file and the W parameter for writing, I will smash that file and it is no longer there anymore. Boom, it's gone. So be aware of that. It's destructive. Don't do it to your Windows paging file. Okay, don't do it to some important term paper file that you have been working on all semester, right? Boom, it's gone. That's the reason why programs like Word and Excel and PowerPoint, the person who wrote those programs says, before I open it to write to it, I'm going to put some logic in there that says, does the file exist already? And if so, say, yeah, you probably don't want me to do that, do you? Or are you sure that you want me to erase that file and create a new one? Because that's what it just did. So dangerous tools when you start dealing with file stuff. Anyway, I'll finish this. Just some text. I hit enter, it exits. I come back over here. Here's my file bar.txt. I'm going to open it with Notepad. Okay, that looks better. It's got the 3 lines that I wrote, and then it's got the text that I entered, and they're all separated on separate lines. Perfect. All right, now I've got a second script here. I've got my cool open file script, and now I've got a write file script, but it's destructive. It's all on video. So we probably want to say something here like if, what is it, exists file or file exists. You guys have looked this up already, right? How to check if a file exists in Python. Right? Nope, I'm not going to do it. You gave me a file that already exists. I'm not going to do it. Let's see if that works a little bit better. Var text. This is not defined. Oh, I think that one does require something like that. Nope. Import OS. Okay, there we go. So I had to do a little bit more extra stuff. So like we talked about last time, sometimes you do have to import OS because the exists command that I wanted to call, you have to have os.path to get to it. So now this is a little bit safer to use. I say, what file do you want me to create? It says, check to see if it exists first. If it does, nope, I'm not going to do that. If it does, then I open it to write, which now I've got a new file, and then I write some stuff to it. Okay. And then you said you wanted us to open a file and print the contents of it?
Like after we finish writing in it, getting it, and like open it again.
Yeah. Let's see, what do we want to call that script? Ask for file name, open the file, and then print the contents. Yeah.
Like, so, is the program able to put it on my phone and like print what's written in the notepad onto the phone? Like, you know how we like print whatever?
Not into the code, but it can print it on the screen. Yeah, I can read from the file and write it to the screen.
And like the start code. So you know, I want to understand one thing. So you run the code. I guess it reads from the text file, and whatever is written on the text file, we can print it on the
Screen.
screen. Yeah. So like
Yes.
not on the text file, but on the Python code.
You could read from a text file and write it to another text file. Let's do that next, okay? So this one, we're just going to read from the text file and display it on the screen.
Display on the screen, like as in like just the screen, or like the
Just the screen.
Python, run command.
Just the screen.
And we're not able to get what's written on the text file to the run command.
Okay, so we're getting into a whole bunch of different variations. We can go through each one of them, but let's do the simple things first, right? And build up to it. So this one's simply going to ask for file name, open the file, handle any exceptions, and print the contents if we were able to open it. So we get the file name. We open it for reading. If we weren't able to open it, we throw an exception. Cool, I was able to open the file. Now, I've got the file open, so I want to read from it. Do you remember how we did that last time? We had a cool little, we went through what happens when you read from a file, and there are some assumptions that you make about when you read a file, what happens. So I've got my file one. I can say line equals file one dot read line and print line. And I think last time, didn't we do something where we printed the line number and then the line of text?
Does read line have three read lines or just one line?
It seems to be read line. And like I could do the write file, and instead of saying write lines, I could just say write. Just an oddity about these silly languages when they're not consistent like this. C# says console read line, console write line. Python says read line, write lines, plural. Go talk to the people that wrote the language, you know.
Yeah, and then when it reads the line, as it iterates through it, is there going to be a specification of line where you can change it out? With that line function?
Like I showed you here, anytime you see a \n, that is what a line means,
Okay.
right? A line is simply a bunch of text with line feet at the end of it. Again, we're limiting our processing of files to text files in this class. But when you get into other classes, you're going to be reading binary files. Remember we talked about JSON format files last time? There's lots of different ways. I mean, there's infinite number of ways that you can define your own file format where you write it one way and expect it to be read a certain way. We're just dealing with text files. Text files are just plain old text with a line feed at the end of it, a \n. Okay, so we read the line and we print it to the screen. That's what this does. What should we call this script? Save as print file. Let's see what that does. How about bar.text? So cool, I was able to open the file and I wrote the first line of text out of the file to the screen. Let's do your example. So if I say, there's a library called subprocess. No, I'm kind of getting in the weeds here. But if I say subprocess dot run, I can give it an OS command. So if I say Python execute file, what did I do wrong? I think there's some parameters. Maybe I have to say Now, what is the format of that command? That should work. Oh, who cares? I'm going to do it the OS way. See if that works. There we go. Okay. So I just executed a command. So I could create a file, dir, copy bar.text, bar2.text, and I could so I'm going to open a file, read the file, line equals file1 dot read line, and execute that string as if it was a command. Okay, and as you can see, I've got commands in here in bar.text, right? Right, so this was your question, right? I can open a file, read it, and then execute the command that's in the file. Bar.text. So it said, cool, I was able to open the file, and then it executed the dir command, which was the first line of the file. Okay, so this is cool. We're getting a whole bunch of these little scriptlets that we can just keep handy, and if we ever want to know how to do something, we just open our little scriptlet. Yeah, and realize this is not how I intend you to do the assignment. So don't start thinking, ooh, I could probably do it like this. I could, no, that's not, that was, I don't see any application practically for that example for this assignment. Yeah.
Now when you do a line read off of, like the file read line, and then you go to print line, can you do a carriage return and identify which line you're trying to, pull up? Like if you wanted to print out, say you had a list and you wanted, say, line 5, it would be 5/n, and then they would bring into the carriage return of line 5, print out whatever's on line 5 under your file open confirmation.
I don't understand what you're getting at. You want to print the 5th line of the file?
Yes.
Yeah, so we're just doing, so far, we've just been messing with the first line of the file, right? But I can put this in a loop. Remember before, when we were dealing with this, if read line returns, you know, it's going to return a string. If it returns a string of length 0, then it means we hit the end of the file, right? There's no end of file indication with the read line. So we have to be clever about it. And I thought we went over that last week.
We did. I didn't really understand the commands completely. I'm just looking for a little clarification because I had a lot of the pieces They're just not working the right way.
Um, I just want to use the same example that I used last time. Yeah, okay. So line equals read line, and then we say while length of line is greater than 0. That's how we process all of the lines of the file.
Yeah, that was one I had been working with that I wasn't exactly able to execute.
Yeah, so this is our typical loop pattern, right? Set our initial condition, check the loop condition, modify the loop condition inside the loop. And then this is the work that we're going to do. Yeah, and so if you wanted the fifth file or the fifth line of the file, then you could set a variable to 0 and count, add 1 each time through the loop.
Yep,
And when it equals 5, print that line.
that's what I was working on. I was trying to get that.
Yeah.
In there, correct, but now it's making more sense.
Anything else? We know how to open files to read. We know how to process them and print the stuff. Yep.
What about replacing a word like in a list?
Okay, so the technique we discussed last time was we for the file, we're going to read the lines one at a time, and if our string appears inside the line, we're going to do some concatenation and then write that to a new file, right? That's basically our assignment, right?
Yes.
But let's forget all the file stuff for a moment. And let's say, I say text equals, give me a string. And then I say word 1 equals, give me a word. Word 2 give me a replacement word. So the idea here is we're going to get some text and replace any word with another word. Sound interesting?
Yes, it does. Sounds like editing.
So all I've done now is replace word, give me a string. Now is the time for command, blah, blah. Give me a word, time. Give me a replacement word, date. That's all it does, right? So the intention, if I did this, would be I want to print this string, but I want to replace the word time with the word date in that string, right?
Yes.
Okay, so see if word appears in the text. How do I do that?
You need to search for the word first.
Okay. Is there maybe a built-in string command? If we went to W3 schools, could we Look at that. Text.find our string. Let's see what that does. Index equals text dot find word one. Let's see if we can find it. So it printed 11. So how did I get 11? Text.find word one gave me back 11. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So it's a zero-based index of where that word appears inside this string.
So then would mean like, append is the way to do a list, like append 11 for word 2.
Yeah. I like that. I like the way you're thinking about it. So I would say new text equals, now wouldn't it be cool if I had a text function, a string function that would give me like the first so many characters of a string? Python strings, slicing strings. String methods. Okay, so there wouldn't just be a left, would there? Left substring. Help me out here. Does anybody see something that would work? Split? :5 goes up to but not including 5. Okay, so this is where, we have to get kind of geeky and figure out how Python does this stuff. :5. And then I need to figure out how to do that with a variable.
You assign the variable somewhere in the index?
That's what we're looking for. Anyway, this is kind of part of the assignment, right?
Yes.
We have to look at these string functions and try to figure out how we do it. So if I wanted to say text 3 to 10, that's how I say in Python, give me from character 3 to character 10, the substring out of that. But I have to figure out how to replace these with variables. If I say blank :10, it says, give me the first 10 characters. If I say 3 : actually, I think that's the opposite. But that's what we're looking for here. Python strings. Ooh, negative. So that's how you go from the end of the string is you use a negative number. Clever. But I want to do it with a variable. Slicing a list using a variable. You just give it the variable name. So if I say, let's see what that does. If I could type. Okay, so now I have a way to get, now is the, right? I could say prefix equals that. Word two is the middle, and suffix is, where do I start with that? I have to figure out how to get, if this is my word, I got the prefix, I've got this word to replace it with, so now I need to get that part of it. So I know the length of text. Minus, I don't know. That's a clever issue.
You could do a find again to the pick out text find in the string, text find the word after the string. See if you can go back from there.
Well, I know it's index plus length of word one. Is it just as simple as that? Yeah, but we're going to say new text equals prefix plus word two plus suffix. Let's see if it does that. Now is the time for all. Time. Date. Huh. Isn't that awesome?
Yep.
So, cool. Now we have a script that can get some text and replace any word with another word. Now there's edge cases that you have to test. What if the word is the last word in the string? What if the word is the first word in the string? You might have to have some logic around that. But for the happy path of when we want to replace a word that's somewhere in the middle of the string, boom, there we go. That was fun. Good one. Yeah. Okay, well, I can come look at it after, okay? Any other cool things anybody wants to see? All All right, so there's gonna be some weirdness, I know about the whole renaming part. You know, we went through that last time. But I expect, I mean, respect how tricky that could be, okay? At worst case, if you have to complete the assignment a little bit differently, where you ask for a file name, you open that file, you replace the text, and you write it to a second file, and now you've got two files, hey, I consider that pretty darn close. And so there'd probably be quite a bit of partial credit for doing that. So you might even modify your program to say, give me the first file name, give me the second file name. You open the first file, read the text from it, do the little replacey thing, and write it to the second file name. That's pretty darn close. Okay. Well, with that, I think I will wrap the lecture part, and then we can just talk about other stuff. Since this is our last class, I just want to say thank you very much for bearing with this. It's not trivial. If you've never written programs before, it's really cool. As I said at the beginning of the semester, my hope is not that you all are now expert programmers, can go out and get a job doing it, but now you know what programming is. You've been introduced to it. The door's open. You're welcome to walk through. I would suggest you go take another programming language like C# or Java, C++. Go take one of those programming languages, and armed with what you know now, you should be ready, you should understand the beginning concepts of starting a language like that. They're probably going to reiterate, and you're going to hear a lot of this stuff again, which is fine. Hearing it multiple times from different people is a good thing. They'll give you different assignments that you'll have to do. You know, that's all great. You'll get more and more experience with a whole different language. I've tried throughout the semester to tell you this is Python specific and weird, and this is other stuff that other languages do. So, you know, hopefully you're prepared, but hopefully there's not too many of you that once you realize what programming was, you said, oh, that's all it is. I don't want to do this anymore. Hopefully, you know, it's been interesting enough that you feel like you could do more of this. And if so, I look forward to seeing you in another programming class in the future semester.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Awesome.